They came from another world, pouring in numbers that reached in the millions. Most militaries could barely mobilize before they were overrun, forced to fight small, scattered battles against far too many enemies. It was easily 10 to 1 in every and any altercation. The world these monsters had invaded was not our own, but one so similar that you could barely tell the difference. Variants of ourselves were butchered across the planet as every major city was hit. The creatures varied in height from 3 to 6 feet, give or take a few inches. Their skin was dark gray and appeared leathery or perhaps burnt. Their teeth were razor sharp, as well as their claws, which protruded from long, bony fingers with a blade of nearly 4 inches. It was quickly realized that their physical strength matched that of a gorilla, making them impossible to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Those who tried were ripped to shreds before they could even inflict any damage. Bullets did little unless to the head, which resulted in immediate death. Explosions and fire worked the best, as the beasts were unable to heal and fire dried them out like lizards. But even tanks were overran by the sheer numbers that flooded the streets. Entire towns would be swept through and consumed in a few hours, while cities only lasted days. Natasha, a young woman with long, brown-haired, hazel eyes, was resting beneath a fallen bridge in New York City. The debris provided enough cover for her and her companions to catch a breath while hidden. She was knelt down, hovering over an older woman who was bleeding internally. Several of her ribs were broken, piercing into different parts of the body. Her name was Autumn Walker, and she knew that this world was done for. Natasha was holding both of her hands on Autumn's stomach as a bright green energy radiated from them. She was a psychic with an ability known as energy medicine. That meant that she could use her mind to heal wounds, some faster than others depending on the damage. This made her an invaluable ally in the war against monsters. Winter, the third of their group, was standing nearby looking over a chunk of debris. She was worried they wouldn't be able to stay hidden for long and kept insisting that they move on. But Autumn was far too hurt to keep moving, as the blood loss had already reached critical levels. When the creatures first tore through from one reality into this one, it was believed that they might be interdimensional aliens, wiping out our race to prepare a new home for themselves. But their lack of preserving natural resources in the wake of their destruction quickly ruled out that belief. Demons from hell were the next popular theory, as many churches throughout the world tried to get as many believers to join them as possible. But science finally stepped in, and after an autopsy was done, it was discovered that these bloodthirsty animals were in fact human. There wasn't enough time or research to learn how humans could have evolved into these beasts. Death tolls were reaching catastrophic levels, and the psychics of the world were barely holding themselves together. The tears these monsters poured through were abnormal, as if reality itself had been ripped between the two worlds, allowing one to connect to the other. But Isaac, Autumn, and the rest of the Chosen on this particular Earth were aware of the obvious truth. These creatures had not appeared here by coincidence. Somehow, they had been assisted in getting to this world. Something malevolent was unfolding around them, around the multiverse. Calm down, Winter, Natasha insisted, not taking her eyes off the task at hand. Being anxious about it isn't going to help anything. I can't stop thinking, Winter began to reply and then paused for a brief moment. If they were really humans from another world, do you think each of us have a variant that's running around as one of those things? Are we literally killing ourselves? Stop, Autumn told her and then wheezed. Natasha is right. Thinking like that isn't going to help anything. It will only serve as a hindrance to your survival. Winter shook her head. I can't stop thinking about it. I just can't. The sounds of bombs, gunfire, and screams were enough to drive the girls mad. But they were resilient and would push forward until the bitter end. Natasha studied Autumn's wounds as her thoughts drifted to those they had recently lost. Cole was lost earlier in the day when a massive wave of beasts tried to flood over them. Cole and a dozen others laid down their lives to repel them long enough for the others to escape to the streets. Joshua and Jamie were responsible for setting off explosions in a building where the creatures were nesting and breeding. There were complications and the bomb had to be set off manually, leaving the young boy and the woman to perish with those they slain. Leon died in the early days of the war. He used his astral projection to find the nesting place for the monsters. But while he wasn't in his body, those around him were attacked by an invading horde and Leon's body was ripped to shreds before he was even able to return. Before Catalina had died, she theorized that Leon's spirit was most likely stuck in astral projection, preventing him from passing on to the other side. But the worst came only an hour ago. Winter, Natasha, and Autumn were gathering medical supplies while Nicholas was securing the hospital's exit. They were almost out when they were suddenly cornered. Nicholas sacrificed himself, leading the monsters away from the girls. In the struggle, they lost most of the supplies, and Autumn was still hurt, but they were able to escape. Autumn forced the girls to cover their ears as they ran. The eventual screams that came from Nicholas somewhere a few blocks away were horrifying, to say the least. They soon found the fallen bridge and took refuge beneath the rubble. But Winter was more than anxious, and Autumn wasn't able to keep going until Natasha patched her up. The latter was exhausted and emotionally distraught, despite having to try and hide it. There was no word from Isaac beyond that he was waiting at a secure location for all psychics who wished to seek ultimate refuge. That is where everyone was trying to go starting today, but it was unclear if they or anyone else would make it. The distant roars were unnerving, and Natasha thought back to how the day had begun. The last band of psychics met in Chicago, where a final plan was to be organized, and Autumn spread Isaac's message about asylum. But tens of thousands of mutated humans suddenly poured into the city through a rip in space. In the attack, the psychics were all divided into several groups, all disconnected from one another. Natasha didn't even know if her friends were alive. She tried to hide a tear, but Winter shook her head and sighed, coming to sit down next to them. "Autumn," Winter murmured, "your power is like a hive mind in the multiverse, right? You live through all of your variants at the same time?" "Yes," the older woman answered with a frown. "Why are you asking?" "Did you exist in whatever universe they came from?" Winter asked her bluntly, her eyes made of stone. She wasn't asking for an answer. She might as well have been demanding one. Autumn was silent for a moment before she shrugged. "Sort of?" Winter frowned. "What does that even mean?" "It means that a monstrous version of me existed, yes, but my mental capacity in that universe was primitive at best, therefore limiting my ability to do anything else but occasionally observe through my variant's eyes. Much like a dreamer." Natasha tilted her head. "So does this mean you know why they're here?" "No," Autumn admitted, and the two girls could see that she was telling the truth. "Something changed early on in human evolution that resulted in man becoming these monsters. But they are just raging beasts, incapable of forming a society or practicing the use of technology. So I don't believe they arrived by their own means. Something or someone has assisted them in getting here." Winter raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Autumn struggled to steal a deep, painful breath before she sighed. "I suppose there's no harm in telling you now. I'd say you're desensitized enough." Natasha and Winter shared an anxious glance as Autumn continued. "Isaac and I have been at war with another psychic across the multiverse. For years, across so many different Earths, we have struggled to resist his urge to destroy. But even he is not the true problem. It is the otherworldly creature that he obeys." This is getting a little too sci-fi fantasy really quick, and we're psychics, Winter tried to joke, but nobody laughed. "It calls itself the Primordial, as it transcends even the multiverse, existing outside of time itself," Winter continued. "I believe they are responsible for the recent destruction of so many Earths." "Wait," Natasha gulped. "This is happening on other worlds too?" Autumn sighed. "I know you've been dreaming of more apocalypses lately. All of you have. Winter and Natasha shared another uneasy glance before the former cleared her throat. "Can we escape this world?" she asked her mentor, doing her best to keep a straight face. "Can we avoid its fate?" "No matter where we go, the Primordial will know that we exist, and it will stop at nothing to call us," Autumn said uneasily, looking away from the girls. "But if we can reach Isaac in time, then we can escape for now. And in the end, nomadic survival is still possible in this world." "Let me just teleport us away, to Isaac," Winter insisted, her eyes full of desperation. "We could attend to Autumn there." Natasha shook her head. "We can't, not yet. If we move Autumn now, especially in such a fashion, it'll kill her, Winter. We can't risk it." Winter's hopeful expression fell and she sighed heavily. "How are we even supposed to fight a multiversal monster?" "The key is finding what it wants first. The salvation of the multiverse," Autumn answered. "The anomaly." "The what?" Winter repeated the name with a confused look on her face. "It's believed to be a psychic force that exists singularly throughout the multiverse, possessing no variants or alternates," Autumn explained, choosing her words carefully. "It has existed since the original timeline, whatever it may have been, before it branched off into another, thus giving birth to the multiverse. It holds the laws of time and space together while simultaneously following neither, unbounded by everything." "Like, the universe has a conscience?" Natasha asked, creasing her forehead with an unsure look. Autumn frowned. "Sort of. But there is no guarantee that the anomaly has a physical form at any given time, much less a sentient one. It can be the shape of a rock, a liquid, or even air itself." "Then how do you or this monster ever expect to find it?" Winter asked in an absurd tone, obviously annoyed. "Thankfully, that has worked to our advantage all this time." Autumn slightly chirped and then winced at the pain. Winter rolled her eyes as her mentor continued. "The anomaly is constantly moving, changing forms as it travels the multiverse. It's almost as if it doesn't want to be seen or retrieved by either party involved. I think it's fascinating, to say the least." "What happens if it's found?" Natasha posed a question that neither girl was ready to hear the answer to. Autumn sighed. "The anomaly is the foundation of every universe. If they were to find it first, they would use it to finish their goal of destroying the multiverse. But Isaac believes that in turn, it can also be used to repel them and bring health to so many dying realities." "You would think that such a force would actually want to save everyone," Winter grumbled, using her annoyance to hide her anxiety. "You know, if it's so important to everyone and all, what the hell is it even the point?" Autumn shook her head. "It has no stake in any one world or universe. It exists for us, not the other way around. But life has not always existed, therefore the anomaly holds no quarrel with it coming to an end. If you want my honest opinion, I think it's exploring the multiverse." Before anything more could be asked or answered, a masculine voice startled all three of them. It came from the darkness at their left, and it sent chills down Autumn's spine as she thought of the girls. "I thought I heard a familiar voice," the man cooed as he slithered out from the darkness of fallen debris. "Autumn, is that you?" A beautiful, muscular man wearing a white tank top and blue jeans came into the dim light, smiling crookedly. He had short blonde hair with bangs that barely hung over his eyebrows. He eyed the three of them with an amused expression and sighed. "What peril you have found yourselves in," the man purred, closing his eyes. "I see you're giving the girls a history lesson." "Girls, you need to leave," Autumn said without breaking eye contact with the man. "Now." "Why?" Winter blurted out. Natasha shook her head. "We can't leave you like this," Natasha insisted. "You're not stable enough to keep from bleeding out yet, much less flee." I'm not going anywhere, Autumn answered. And yet, I am everywhere. The man laughed. Oh, that's good! You should put that on the lunchbox. You'll make a fortune! Go, Autumn told the girls again. Now. No arguing. Just go. Find Isaac or find safety elsewhere. But go! Autumn. Winter said her name, and the older woman shot her a fearsome glance. That was enough for Winter to reluctantly nod her head and grab Natasha's shoulder. The younger girl looked up at her friend, whom she considered a sister, and gave her the saddest eyes that Winter had ever seen. The latter gulped before taking a glance at the man and then swallowing her pride. We have to go, Winter told her. Come on. Natasha stood up, her legs shaking as her eyes flooded with tears. She shuddered before giving Autumn one last look. Everything that ever needed to be said between them was shared in that final moment. The girls then turned and quickly ran off into the darkness, without so much as giving Autumn or the creepy man another thought. It's futile, the man told her as she sat up against some large chunks of concrete. I'll catch up with them after I'm done here. That is, if a horde of beasts doesn't devour them first. Shut up, Evan, Autumn grumbled. I have faith in them. Evan smirked. And that faith has gotten them killed in so many universes, hasn't it? Autumn said nothing as Evan continued, asking her, in the other universe, where's Eugene? Autumn chuckled. You really think I'm going to answer that? You really are all muscle in other people's brains, aren't you? Evan growled before Autumn leapt up to her feet, attempting to drive a small knife through his eye. Unfortunately, Evan snatched her by the wrist and twisted, breaking it. She howled into the darkness as he kicked her in the lower stomach and dropped her. It's useless, Autumn, he reassured the gasping woman, standing over her with a disgustingly false sense of pride. He wasn't a man. He was a cretin. When has that ever stopped us? Autumn coughed as she pulled back to her knees. She was losing too much blood too quickly, and the efforts she made were excruciating. You? Never, Evan answered honestly. That's what makes this fun between you and I. But Isaac learned to quit and run. That's what he always does once I arrive, heralding my master's destruction. Autumn snorted, shaking her head. You have obviously never played chess, and if you have, it mustn't have been a very long game. Oh, but we're stamping out the multiverse one reality at a time. Evan grinned, resembling a devil. My master will absorb all psychic energy until there is nothing left but his image. Evan grasped each side of her head and prepared for a twisting motion. I've lost count just how many times I've killed you, in so many various ways, he said, pondering the actual number. I really should keep a scrapbook. Autumn refused to say anything else to him. She kept her thoughts irrelevant, therefore preventing her foe from reading anything crucial. I'll be seeing you soon, he whispered in her ear just before breaking her neck.